Awesome. I guess we can get started. Thanks a lot everyone for joining. My name is Aki. I'm a lead ML engineer at a hedge fund in London. I have 10 plus years of experience. I've got a PhD in machine learning and been advising quite a few startups in this domain. And today we have Paul, who is an exceptional AI engineer, has done a lot to the community, has a following of almost 80,000 enthusiastic ML engineers who follow his content. Written a book. It's one of my favorite books on LLM engineering. That's close to 50,000, 60,000 sales right now. And he's also leading AI engineering in a few startups, including he's part of a stealth startup as well. Paul, thanks a lot for making the time today to join us. And so the topic today is like basically try and discuss how AI tooling has helped sort of disrupted coding, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And we already got some questions that we can get started with. And everyone else, feel free to ask your questions regarding AI tools that you can use for coding, and if you are also vibe coding, as we may say. So just to kick off today, got a question that I got. Others, feel free to put your questions in the chat, and also if you want to ask a question, raise your hand up, and we can sort of let you unmute yourself and ask a question as well. So it's going to be a discussion. So for the first one, Paul, I want to ask was what sort of tools that you use, like I mean, from Cursor to Replit for your day-to-day coding practices? What sort of tools you use, and do you have any preference for anyone? And how does your workflow look like with those tools?
Yeah, first I would like to say that I'm really happy to be here, Aki. And yeah, your introduction was amazing. So we can jump straight into your question.
Yeah,
So to give some context, I started using AI assistants 5 years ago, like when the Visual Studio Code was in alpha. Visual Studio Code GitHub Copilot was in alpha.
yeah,
I, when I heard about it, I was
yeah,
extremely excited and like jump into it immediately. So for a while, I used Visual Studio Code, and it worked until some point. But like the AI integration into it, as we all know, is not that great. It's kind of clunky.
yeah,
So I replaced it with Cursor. Uh, I like to be minimalist, so I don't use 10,000 tools. In the end, I care about productivity
yeah,
and being focused rather than letting the AI do everything for me. So I'm not that into vibe coding. I mean, I guess we should define vibe coding more, but
yeah,
like I'm not into the idea of just prompting stuff into the AI and letting the AI completely take your wheel and do whatever it wants. Like I think understanding how your code is structured, understanding the layers, the architecture, the design, like your class structures and hierarchy, you should be the one that designs that, and the AI should just write the implementation of each function. Like I think that's where I will draw the line. So basically, to just answer your question,
yeah,
currently I use Cursor. That's
yeah.
it.
That's it. Yeah,
And I like the idea. Like maybe I'm biased, but I like the idea and like working with Cursor, not with Claude CLAI and things like this directly in the CLAI.
yeah,
I don't know. It doesn't seem
yeah.
that UI friendly to me.
I mean, I hear you. Yeah, definitely. I think like I have a similar sort of like practice. I would say like yeah, definitely go start off with VS Code. I mean, like yeah, super surprised like the accuracy at that point. Like looking at that time right now, it looks like yeah, child's play, but like at that point, it was like revolutionary. I would say.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I think like a huge Cursor fan, I would say it's like seeing like from last 1 year or so how it sort of progressed. It's quite impressive with like agentic behavior and like the cursor rules and things like that. So you can do a lot. So I have sort of a slightly different sort of approach to code. So it depends on whether it's a new project or a project that's already existing. So if it's like a new project that has a bit of a UI component, what I'll try to do is like use something like allowable or replicate OV0, something like so that I can go from 0 to 1 really fast with the design pattern that I want and get it sort of designed there and sort of get then sort of sync the code to GitHub and get the copy of that to Cursor and then sort of add more features on top of that. So that I can sort of have the initial sort of the scaffolding generated by a tool like that and let Cursor sort of add more features. That seemed to have worked for me. And then yeah, I use some of these tools like so Gemini's code assist tool, which is part of like GitHub integration that sort of reviews my PRs as well. So it's quite helpful. So like I try to sort of add things here and there, but yeah, I think like 60 to 70% of my sort of work like AI tooling would be Cursor as well. But yeah, but I would love to like try different things. Like so many stuff coming out. So for example, there's like a Cursor competitor that come out of AWS like a couple of days back. I think they've opened it up, but now it's on waitlist. I think it's called Kiro. I can't remember properly. I need to check the name of it, but it's a
Yeah.
similar to Cursor. But like I don't know like how good it is. On demos it looks good, but yeah, you actually have to
All
play
of
around
them look
and
good on
see.
demos.
Exactly. That's the thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I mean, everyone, feel free to shoot your questions if you have. We are sort of, yeah, feel free to take. We're happy to take your questions as we go. We got another question. So what are you most sort of excited in AI based coding, like in the next sort of 6 months to 1 year sort of progress, and like where do you think like the development needs to come, and are there any interesting projects that you see that's coming up in the near future?
Yeah, so I think that we are at the phase that we won't revolutionize anything, but we should like make make it work what we have right now. So there, like feature wise, we have so many options, but the thing is that most of them don't work well enough, right? They
Yeah.
work good enough, but they don't
Yeah.
work well enough. So
Yeah.
in my mind, right now we should perfectionize what we have. One concrete example is now. So usually I write in Python files. I am a Python at heart. I'm a Python developer. Most of the time I write in Python. So usually I write in Python files, but I'm currently working on a course. So I had to write. I have to write in notebooks to make this educational content, right?
I saw your LinkedIn post. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is that these tools just suck with
Yeah.
a notebooks. With notebooks, I mean, they pick up on the changes right now, but the applications did not pick up. For example, um, instead of like doing diffs into the cells that I want, I even told him go to cell 10 and do there the diff. It
Yeah.
just starts to create new cells randomly into the notebook, like at the top somewhere in the notebook. It never do the diffs. It just adds new notebooks, new
Yeah.
cells, or it adds instead of a single diff, it adds like 10 options over there and it just populates your notebook with bullshit.
Yeah.
So I think that all these tools sound good, but sometimes they just make you slower instead of faster. It's just like automation for the sake of automation, but doing things manually sometimes it's faster.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I
To
think
be honest, I don't know in Google Colab with Gemini.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't use Google Colab that much. I think the dev experience is not that great in Google Colab. I just usually write in my local machine and just open it up in Google Colab if I need to run it like on a GPU or something like
Yeah.
that. Because for example, in Google Colab, you don't have a debugger. That's
Yeah.
another thing. Like nobody uses debuggers now in the world
Yeah.
of AI, but
Exactly.
they are, I think, even more important now than ever.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. Like, I think like just to answer like Mary's question as well, like so I think like the Gemini integration has improved a lot like in the last 3 to 4 months with Colab. But there's quite a lot of trade-offs because you can't, I mean, you can like write like with Gemini some level of code, but I would like still prefer to code at something like Cursor because you have like agentic behavior, so like you have access to like much better coding models like from Claude and like so relatively it's much better. So Gemini I mean, yeah, I don't use it much either, but I mean, the last 3 months it has improved, and it doesn't like do the same, like it doesn't have the same issue as like sort of replacing different yeah, sort of sections in single person. Yeah. So yeah, that's a yeah.
Yeah. And for example, another thing is sometimes with this agentic behavior is that you wait so much time for something that it's super easy to fix.
Yeah.
Like out of habit right now, like instead of fixing some PyDucks, I just write it to, to the LLM, fix my PyDucks. And
Yeah.
it would have taken me like 1 second to fix it, but the agent starts to think
Yeah.
whatever, I don't know what it
Yeah.
thinks, and it takes like 1 minute.
Yeah.
So I think right now we should perfectionize how the tools work,
Yeah.
how we work with those tools, how we think about them, and stop like thinking about how they will take our job or things like these rocket science things.
Yeah. I mean, 100% I agree. I think like it works with like limited scope. I think like for it to like be generalized, it take a bit of time. So there's a question, but it's just like in private message. I'll read it out from Balaji regarding vibe coding. Can you weigh in on other tools such as Replit, Gemini CLI, Claude Artifact, and how they compare with Cursor? In my very limited experience, Cursor seems more advanced and customizable, but Claude Artifact was the quickest to get an app up and running. Can you share the tools make sense for specific applications? Example, Cloud Artifact for quick web applications, Cursor for more involved projects, Gemini CLI for leveraging Gemini models, etc. I mean, Paul, I'll let you sort of answer this. I've got a slide to quickly show to answer this question exactly. But like, yeah, would love to hear your thoughts, Paul. Yeah.
Um, yeah, to be honest, as I said, I don't like bouncing around between tool and tool. I like the idea of becoming like a ninja of one tool and do
Yeah.
everything with that rather than being superficial with 10 tools.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe some people are not like that, but this is how I work. So I squeeze everything out of Cursor.
Yeah.
I usually switch models inside Cursor. And because I have 10 years of experience in development in general,
Yeah.
it for me is very native to work in an IDE and do everything in there. Like I like that flexibility and control and do and customize everything that I want.
Yeah.
So that's like I don't really think once you get like the necessary dev experience, you need all these tools. But
Mm.
for example, if I just want to quickly see something, a simple application that works, then it makes sense like to use Cloud Artifact or a CLI tool or something like that, where you don't really care about how the
Mm.
code looks,
Yeah.
if it should be production ready or things like this, just to r- like first quickly draft an idea, let's say, then sure, use whatever.
100%. So, I mean, for one of the sessions, I sort of created this sort of like high level sort of table, like just to address this, like how we can sort of like structure, look at like the existing tools. So you have like on the left hand side, like text to code tools, like generally like what engineers would generally use, like the Cursor, the Copilot, Gemini CLI. I think like still the preferred one is Cursor. Highly recommend it, and it gives you more flexibility and like it's still within the IDE, so you have more control on like and like can switch between like editing yourself and sort of using AI as well. And then there's like text to app direct like Laravel, Bolt, even Devin, Replit, where you can sort of so easily get an app working really fast. And some of them have the backend as well, like Replit on its own has its own environment. You can spin up databases, etc. Laravel, you need to connect to external services, but still it's good enough. Like you can connect with something like Supabase and like get the sort of backend services that is needed with database. So still you can get a production ready app, but less control. So as I said earlier, like it's best to like use something like global therein to if you have an idea to get to production like to see how it looks like use that but for like to more production ready code something like Cursor is the way. But there's also other stuff like Framer, Figma, Tempo, like which are less about like code. It's more about getting like a website or some sort of a design like clickable sort of interactive design really fast. These are also like AI tools in a way. But yeah, the top two are like the most like where I've seen like most of the advancement in the past. Yeah, I just want to quickly show this. I'll sort of stop sharing this. Yeah, I think there are a few more questions in the chat. Let's see. Um, yeah, can you suggest a foolproof framework, tools, workflow, courses, talks, wherever to do proper iterative development? Currently, I'm using moving slowly from one GitHub context window to another, moving context in a plain.txt, error.txt, and some of the other files. Dishan, have you used Cursor? Oh, it's not the case. Um, I think, like, yeah, I mean, if you use something like Cursor, I mean, yeah, Paul, do you wanna add anything to the question before I answer?
Can you
So,
repeat first the first
yeah,
part of the question? I haven't fully understood it.
yeah. So, I mean, I'll try to read it. Like, yeah, but also some of the parts I didn't understand. It's like, can you suggest a foolproof framework, tools, workflows, and courses, talks, whatever to do proper iterative development? Currently, I'm using moving slowly from one GitHub context window to another, moving another context in a plain.txt, error.txt, and some other files. So I feel like it's a bit more manual process Dishant is using. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Uh, Again, I think IDs like Cursor solve this problem because they allow you to link, for example, files or select specific sections of a file. So instead, for example, when you want to prompt what you want, you say that, hey, uh, based on the class that I have in a specific file or between specific lines, if that file is too much, uh, add to it a specific method or modify it in a specific way. Or you can be very specific where it should do those modifications or what files it should prioritize so it doesn't like go off rail the agent and try to understand everything and speed up the process. So basically that's how like you control the context. And if you switch and if you get a new if you initialize a new window, it's quite easy just to link again the files that you need, plus that it already like initializes the files that you have open, like the files that you already work on. They usually already use it and they see links between the files like imports. So again, usually that's how I manage context in those IDs. With CLIs, I expected something similar, but I'm don't have that much experience. Maybe Aki, you can add more on this.
yeah, I think like yeah, you tend to like lose a lot of control when you sort of interact with like CLI based tools. Whether like I mean, I've used Devin, I've used like similar tools. Like so, the issue is like I mean, they're relatively good, but sometimes like it's good to like have like a hybrid approach where I can sort of edit if needed and like also at the same time AI would sort of fix this. But I think like yeah, so Curse has thought a lot about these like sharing context and like the agents that runs within Cursor sort of reads the context really well. And even like longer context, I feel like even like chat with the like the chat pane for a very long period, it still like has relatively good understanding in the long term. I think like they use like a really good like short term sort of a memory system that it sort of extract and understand the code base really well. So yeah, and then you can also read in from the CLI itself, like the terminal and other logs as well. So you don't have to manually copy anything; it will automatically pick those things. So that's the value of something like Cursor, and like there are similar tools as well. But yeah, so
Yeah.
the recommendation is to go to something like that and start there. And for like tools and workflows courses, there's plenty on like I've done a few on Maven as well. There are other sort of providers do similar courses, and YouTube has quite a lot of examples like Cursor put a lot of content. There's a lot of content creators putting this like how to use Cursor, things like that. So watch a few of them, and that's where you can sort of get started. Yeah,
Yeah.
and feel free to reach out to either of us. Happy to sort of send some resources your way. Yeah.
Yeah, and a hack for people that are like started coding in the past years, like Cursor is basically Visual Studio Code with some AI features on top of it. So if you like don't understand the IDE part of it, that doesn't necessarily contain the AI part, you can just search a lot of stuff on Visual Studio Code, which has like tons of resources on everything that you need. And just the chat of AI that's on top of it, that's quite intuitive to understand after you watch some videos or do some courses, as Aki suggested. So, yeah, basically it's Visual Studio Code with a light wrapper on top of it,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
a good
Yeah.
wrapper.
Yeah, it's a really good rapper. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, super cool. So yeah, I think like there are a few more questions. Let me try and read some of them. Are any of these tools making you enjoy the building experience? Has the AI tool workflow increased experimentation of new ideas? I mean, yeah. I mean, I'll go at it first, Paul. Like, so definitely 100%. Like, I mean, yeah, I love building. Like, for example, I'm more of a sort of back-end sort of infrastructure based engineer. Like, my front end code is not the best. But now I can quickly build like web apps and things like that, applications where users can use, which was a nightmare in the past. I had to like go and like read these CSS files, like JS, like which is not my expertise. But now it's relatively easy, like with some screen grabs and like defining how I want it to look. I can get like the end-to-end app built. So it's sort of 10x any engineer sort of development journey. So I highly recommend that. And also increase experimentation of new ideas 100%, like especially sort of no code, like sort of like things like Replit, Laravel sort of helps to like test out an idea really fast and get a sort of production ready link and sort of get that to show it to your friends, like go publish it on LinkedIn, Twitter, and you can sort of get validation really fast. So definitely for me, I love it. I mean, yeah, Paul, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, basically that's like one aspect of it. So I see AI can help you in three ways when it comes to writing and understanding code. So the first one is writing UI code when you're like a backend and infrastructure engineer, as I am as well. So I can get around like JavaScript, Node code, but of course I will be a lot slower, especially on the design part. A lot slower or a lot more uglier. Uh, the second part is writing code faster in something that you already know, which is like the most obvious one. But the key here is that I see that now it's more about strategizing. Like the human side of writing code is more about strategizing, as I said at the early of the event, like strategizing, understanding how to design your code, understanding your structures, understanding the algorithms, uh, the layers between your code, like between the database, the like the entities that you have, the application layer, the presentation layer, how the data flows through this, and mostly things about architecture that's still on you. So you can, for example, quickly design uh, the interfaces of your classes and methods, and then let the AI write the code for you where you specify like what you want. So it can just make you write code 10 times faster basically, but still clean code that makes sense and is maintainable and debuggable. That's the key over here.
Yeah.
So it's like production ready and then not just trash that you throw away.
Yeah.
And the third part is learning. So for example, I started working on a new code base where there's a lot of complicated SQL code. Like, I understand SQL, but I don't understand uh, 500 lines SQL code. So basically, I could just pick up complex and advanced SQL code concepts on the fly without any tutorials, any courses, any research at all. I just asked the AI and it does a really great job me understanding the code. And also I started using Rust and I have zero experience in Rust. And again, with AI, it's so easy to pick up on new languages, on new concepts, on new like design, basically to understand your code base, which is often like, in my opinion, so underrated. Instead of like going and trying to understand the code
Yeah.
base, you can scan the code really quickly with an AI and understand what's going on inside of there. And not only like language wise, but also structural wise. So I said in the early phase that you should design how the architecture of the code is, but when you start working on a new code base, you can ask the AI to explain you the architecture of the code and understand what like the author or authors tried to do over there.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the learning part is a really key thing. Like, yeah, I don't even like go from away from cursor to ask for stuff. I just use the chat in it and ask like certain questions, like development questions, things like that. So it does a really good job because you have backend like connected to like the latest model. So definitely you can get answers really fast. Not just generate code. So definitely, yeah, makes life much easier tackling like new code bases. 100% agree. So yeah, it's a game changer. So there are a few more questions. So let's see. Um, so yeah, I mean, Balaji says, in my limited experience, I attempted to build the recipe generation app, Cloud Artifact. Yeah, I think it's not necessarily a question, but like a statement. I'll read it out though. Cloud Artifact was the easiest to get something up and running quickly with minimal customization. Gemini CLI was developed something but was harder to deploy because it was the more advanced and customizable. Example use of APIs, AI generate recipes, auto selection, selecting ingredients, layout, etc. But the process was more involved. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Exactly. So it's like if you're an engineer, definitely that's a
Yeah.
good tool to use. Uh,
Yeah, I guess here is the differentiation between poor vibe coding and like engineered vibe coding, I guess. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
Like if you want just to chat with something and to do everything by its own without touching the code, then yeah, probably cursor is not the
mm,
best option because you, as you said, you have to be really involved and see the code and talk to it and read it and all of that,
yeah,
which for an engineer, that's what you want, I guess.
yeah, yeah. 100%. So, I mean, I have a question, Paul. I think like this is something everybody's talking about, a very generic question. Like, so how does the AI sort of impacts the software engineering and sort of IT sort of market, like job market especially? This is not necessarily relevant to vibe coding per se, but like, how do you see, like a lot of people say that the jobs are going away, entry-level jobs are going away, or even like the companies are not hiring enough. I mean, I have a viewpoint on that, like how it's going to impact, but would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't I it changed the job market, of course, but I don't think it erased roles. I just think it raised the bar a lot. So now it's a lot harder to get into this field, and only like it trimmed the it's like an autumn which trims like all the leaves, you know. Um, Basically now it's a lot harder even as a junior engineer. Previously all the companies needed like junior and mid engineers to write like to be writers, you know, just take some ideas from others and write some code, type it into the computer. But
Yeah,
now juniors engineer need to be a lot more independent to understand a lot more stuff to actually build stuff because you don't need, it's not that important anymore to write code, but it's more important to build stuff to actually ship value. So junior engineers are still required, but I guess they're the old mid engineers. So just the bar has raised by a lot, and we don't need as many jobs in this field as previously because people are a lot more productive.
yeah,
So it I guess just the pie has shrinked,
yeah,
but the people remaining in the pie are like, I think they have huge potential, and those jobs will be even more and better paid and more better seen, and they have a lot of potential.
yeah,
But the
yeah. I
trick is
agree.
now that more people want to be part of the pie, but it's
Yeah,
harder to get in the pie, and this means
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting point, right? Like, I mean, only time will tell, like 2, 3 years down the line, how this will turn out. But like currently, this is what it looks like. But I also feel like for example, like one sort of interaction, like not one, like multiple times, like because like apps are very easy to build right now. A lot of people build like even non-coders without a CS background build apps and get to production, but they hit some sort of issue, like a security issue, like they can't sort of expand the app that they've built because they have like a lot of customers now. So now they come back to like a seasoned engineer to get it like sort of to the next level. So I feel like
yeah.
that sort of opens up new jobs like in few months or few years down the line where the there are more software out in the wild and that needs maintenance, that needs sort of improvements, etc. So that's one like different angle I look at it.
Yeah, that's a valid angle.
Yeah,
That was super valid. I see that angle more like the entrepreneur that previously like build app as he
yeah.
thought it
The
should like.
ideas guy. So now we can build apps. Yeah,
Yeah, and then it hired the engineers to actually make it work
yeah.
properly.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, yeah, it's a common scenario now. Like, a lot of people like build apps very quickly now. Like, but like to scale and things like that, you need like good engineers, and engineers are in high demand, like the good ones. So yeah, I mean, like, still, I would like do CS, like do like really good like algorithms, like the database internal things like that. So it's gonna help you a lot, like in this vibe coding world, I would say. Yeah. Um, there are a few more questions, but like, yeah, I mean, feel free to shoot them. We got like another 10 minutes or so before we wrap it up. Let me see. If you want to,
I have a question actually.
yeah,
Um, so for people that have zero coding experience, what would you recommend between for building a simple homepage or a simple site? Like, what would you still recommend? Like a drag and drop tool like Squarespace or a Wix or that space, or like something like Lovable, Replit, and that space. Like again, for people that have zero experience in coding, like
yeah,
from
it's a good
psychology,
question.
human resources, or
Yeah.
these type of domains.
Yeah, and I think like it depends on the use case. Like for example, if it's like a front facing like a like landing page or website, I may use something like Squarespace, something like that. Still like because you have a lot more control over that. But like if you want to build like a web app that sort of, let's say, to track my calories, like, or to find some like favorite movies, or like sort of a
Mhm.
like a community app. So something like that, I would go for something like Laravel or Replit, like, or even V0, because you can sort of like get the backend running and sort of get it to production really fast, and like you can get it to users, like, and like unless it's like a more than like 100 plus users, you can definitely use these systems. And even like Firebase Studio, like you can connect with GCP, like you get the Google Cloud infrastructure backend connected, and then you can build like production ready apps.
Okay.
So definitely, unless it's like a landing page or website, or if it's an app, I would go for like a this like text to app kind of a tool, and start building and sort of use their sort of backend services as well.
Okay.
And yeah, that's my sort of viewpoint. I think, like, yeah,
Not that that makes sense. So
yeah,
basically, and tools like Lovable and all of this, they say they build the backend. It's built in TypeScript, in like Node or something like that. So
yeah.
like very basic, or how does
So
that look
Laravel
like?
does so Laravel doesn't necessarily build backend. What it does is like connects to Supabase. So Supabase has the database, and it has the edge functions that are like the Lambda function that you might have. These are like functions that you can directly call for external
Okay,
services.
so it's like a serverless backend
Serverless,
that
exactly.
does
So
some. Okay.
yeah, so yeah, so you'll have this like, so it will generate the code needed to create the Supabase sort of infrastructure, and you can connect your Supabase account and sort of get that running. So for generic apps, it's more than sufficient. Like, it's Supabase is great, and then you can build something with it. And if you need something much more complex, Replit is the go-to one. So it sort of generates the entire backend, like whether it's with Postgres SQL, like, so you have much more flexibility because it has the VM that is running in the backend, and you have entire full stack control over that when you build using something like Replit. Yeah, I think, like, yeah, so yeah, it depends on like the level of control that you want on that. Yeah, there's another question from Dishant. How diagrams like Mermaid, Lies C4 help as providing context to the AI ID, and how to best use them? How have been your experience, and what about maintaining context in kind of YAML files or anything? I have heard people using these to get better outcomes from AI assisted coding. Um, yeah, do you have any thoughts, Paul? Like, I have
Yeah.
some.
Currently, I think that it doesn't really matter the form in which you contain like your ideas and thoughts. LLMs nowadays process really well images, diagrams, especially Mermaid. Like it's the markdown of diagrams. If you want the YAML, of course, I don't think it really matters that much. I think what's important is to create a process that makes sense for you, as in intuitive for you and flawless for you. And the process is more important than like what type of context you provide, because they are built with this in mind to basically throw in whatever you want. They work, for example, they work especially well with images. Often I just throw in diagrams and PNGs and JPEGs, and it understands that really well.
Yeah. I hear you. I think like maybe like last like 1.5 years ago, it has a lot of like out throughput. Like if you use like for example like XML tags, if you talk with Claude sort of based tools like so like YAML files depending on the model that you pick. Right now, I think less sort of marginal gains for using something like
Yeah.
that, I would say. But it might be helpful for you to like sort of like structure your thought process and you have something that is easy to understand, is more structured, maybe rather than the LLM itself. Like it might be helpful to you to have that structure in place. So yeah, I think that's my view. As Paul said, like the LLMs are much more sophisticated right now. Like even like half words, like screenshots would go a long way. And like yeah, if you need to like push the next five, like 6% gains, and then yeah, you need like okay tool connections and things like that. But for general tasks, it's like you don't have to do a lot of stuff. Like the basic interaction and the process is sufficient, I would say. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, but one thing that I would recommend is like to have a dot cursor or something like that file, cursor rule file or something
Yeah,
like that, that makes your standardizes your code generation, like where you can specify that you want the PyDocs in Google format, that you mostly use Fast API, a specific version, or you use a specific framework and all of that. So when it generates the code, it's more guided and it knows like your preferences basically, and that will make everything a lot more seamless. For example, what I want to try is that I saw that very often now it tries to correct the linting errors from my
oh
program,
yeah, yeah,
which is very annoying for me
yeah,
at least.
yeah,
And I want to try prompting it in this cursor.rules file to always ignore linting, like don't care about them, let me
yeah,
correct them. And I
exactly.
think small things like this that matter in your daily workflow.
Yeah, I totally agree. The linting thing is like, yeah, it's like a really pain right now. But definitely like so you can like other thing I would add is like the system prompts. Like you can have like quite a few system prompts, like detailed system prompts. Like for example, if you're building agents, you can have like the agent related system prompt. So you can switch on the chat and like have that system prompt be the driver of the code generation. So that would generate code much more geared towards what you want to build rather than like generic code development. So if you're building database schema, you can have sort of a pattern within this system prompt itself. So you can use that rather than letting cursor decide like how to sort of have the structure in place. So things like that. So I mean, yeah, cursor is like a yeah massive system. Like they add like quite a few features. The docs are really good though. I would recommend reading that. And yeah, if there are any questions, feel free to shoot. Um, Awesome. We can take one more question. I've got a few, but like if anybody wants to ask a question, feel free to send them. Um, just yeah, yeah. I mean, the last question from my side, Paul, like how do you sort of like learn new tools and like what's your sort of process? So if you, how do you keep up to date with the latest AI tools and yeah, who do you follow,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah, that's a good question. I try to follow up with all the tools, but my new philosophy is that the tool should make me productive, and which means that you don't have to know all the tools. And usually, I just pick one, see how it goes, and if I like it, I stick to it. And I try new tools only if it's like a 10x improvement. So I care most about the productivity, not about knowing all the tools. And that's why I just use Cursor and that's it.
Yeah,
Because I care about writing code, not about knowing all the tools.
yeah,
um, and I don't usually write front end. For example, if I would written a lot of front end using Replit or something like that, along Cursor, maybe it would have make sense. But still, Cursor knows how to write uh, JavaScript and
yeah,
TypeScript code. So me as an engineer, probably I will just stick to it.
yeah,
Uh, so basically, I don't care about the hype and vibes. I usually wait for people like to test it and recommend it because otherwise you'll always jump from tool to tool to tool to tool. So I don't care like being the first people that tries that tool. I haven't tried Gemini CLA or Cloud CLA yet because I haven't seen the value added it in my daily workflow. But for example, maybe at some point when I will see that like a 10x in value, then I will like try it. Otherwise, it's a huge waste of time. And most of the time, they don't. It's like they don't provide any value. So usually when I'm mostly like problem oriented, right? So when I have a problem and I cannot solve it with my tool, even like feature wise, or it just takes too much time to solve it with my current tool, then I look in other spaces. Or when I see that something becomes super popular and what I currently use is just outdated, then I switch because I always like to stay with what's the most popular because usually it's what you'll find in next jobs is what where you have the biggest community. Usually it has actually the best prices, the best support, the latest features and all of that. Even if it's not the best tool, like
Yeah.
all the other advantages usually are better.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with you. I think like yeah, best to like stick to very few tools, like the whole 80/20 rule, right? Like you can get like 20% of the tools to do 80% of the work. And like yeah, so because there's a cost to switching, and like if you switch
Yeah,
to
exactly.
um and like the gains are minimal as well. And yeah, 100%. Yeah, for me to answer that question, like yeah, definitely keep track of like Twitter, LinkedIn, like I mean follow different people including you, Paul, to learn about AI engineering. And on Twitter I follow quite a few people, sort of the thought leaders. So they, I mean, not necessarily everything they post is valuable, but still like I get a signal of what is out there. And like yeah, if I need to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's valuable, like to understand what's out there when something big. That's how we understand if what's that out there, it's
yeah,
like 10x improvement or become super popular. But
exactly.
that's a very minimal investment from your side rather than trying everything
Trying
yourself.
everything. Yeah, 100%. And like, so when I really like feel like something is interesting, I go and build something with it, like with a library or a tool. Like I try to use that in like one of my projects. So I learn it on the job, rather than like, so yeah, I really sort of tie my learning around a project somehow. So in that way, sort of I get to the internals of that tool. Yeah, I mean, so definitely that's how I go about it. I think we are almost at time. So yeah, I mean, just one question I'll answer that from Dishan in the session between cursor versus windsurf. Definitely cursor. I don't know. I haven't used windsurf much, so like, so I
Yeah.
guess the same for you as well, Paul.
Yeah, from what I heard, Windsor is dead, so I don't know.
Yeah, we are on the cursor gang. Yeah, so definitely I would recommend
Yeah,
cursor.
I mean, maybe it's the same, right? But as I said,
Yeah,
if it's like almost the same, it doesn't matter. It's not valuable to switch.
switch.
For the open source people out there, I heard that Zed is really
Oh
good,
yeah,
which is
I've seen
fully,
that. Yeah,
yeah, but it's fully open source. So if there are any open source folks over here, Zed I heard from like people who love open source
yeah,
is great, but haven't used it by myself.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I've seen some tutorials on that. I haven't used it either. It's interesting. So yeah, we're almost at time. So thanks a lot, Paul, for joining, and thanks everyone for joining in and for asking the right question. Feel free to follow us on LinkedIn, and I'll let me see if I can add Paul's LinkedIn on the chat so you guys can follow Paul. So yeah,
Yeah, my pleasure. It was
yeah.
amazing, and thank you for inviting me, Aki.
Thank you very much, Paul. Yeah. So yeah, have a nice evening, everyone. Take care.
Have a nice evening. Bye.